On this episode, local governments, maintenance of water-sensitive urban design assets, getting a budget, we are down to the final two steps here. Implementing the budget and continuous improvement over the long term. Hey everyone, and welcome back to Ideanthro. And welcome back to this mini-series where we have been looking at how some local governments have gone about getting a budget for maintaining their water-sensitive urban design assets. And we have been talking through this process on the board that I have observed a number of these local governments go through. It's not to say that it's the only process, but it's one that I've seen work. So it's a good foundation from which to start and from which you can amend this to suit your particular situation. And we are really at the pointy end of things now, because we are talking now about implementation and continuous improvement in the long run. At this point, if things have all gone well, last episode, briefing up, you've been given the tick of approval, you have a budget, and now it's like, sweet. It feels like the hurdle is over. It feels like everything is solved. And to some degree it is, but to some degree it isn't. The reality is that for this water-sensitive urban design stuff to work for us, we need to keep looking after it year on year on year. We need to be consistent with this stuff. 1 year with a big screw up where we don't look after anything can seriously set us back and can seriously cost us a lot of money if our assets degrade in condition. If we look after them regularly and consistently, it can be very cost effective. But the thing is with these vegetated assets, if you drop the ball big time 1 year, it could be a real problem. And so implementation and continuous improvement are super important in this space. Really, this is the opportunity where, in the very first episode, in the overview episode, even before we got here, in episode 122, I mentioned that this video series wasn't meant to be a substitute for the international, for documents like the International Infrastructure Management Manual that set out best practice asset management approaches. Realistically, at this point, everything we've talked through to get to here is triage, is like, what are the most important things for us to do to get a budget and start looking at these assets, looking at maintaining these assets. At this point here, we're into how do we make sure that we solidify this process and make sure that it continues to happen in perpetuity. And that is where traditional proper asset management processes and procedures come in. Things like the International Infrastructure Manual and all the other stuff out there to support that. This is where I see local governments needing to start implementing that in this water-sensitive urban design process, because that locks in and creates the foundation for this stuff to continue in the future. So it's about doing a bang-up job the first year. You've got the budget, deliver on it. The local governments who've done this best have got the budget and delivered on them really, really, really well, kept those assets in good condition that are in good condition, fixed up some of the poor ones, reported back about those successes, said, hey, you know what? You know what, politicians and management? Last year, you were good enough to provide this budget for maintenance. Well, look at the things that have been done with it, and look at what would have happened if we hadn't had that. Big wins. And then start implementing this proper asset management process. And some of that stuff, because the thing here, right, for example, when you build the business case here, a lot of the financial data that you stick into that, you're going to have to draw from other sources. Well, as soon as you've got the budget and you start implementing, now you can start to capture your own data and you start to get a continuous improvement cycle that you can feed back up in here that then informs future briefing up about future budgets, and you can start to bring in this continuous improvement cycle and make things work really nicely. And so that's the space really. This is the space, everything to date that we talked about here is a process that local governments have gone through to get a budget for maintaining their water-sensitive urban design assets. This here really is the space that many local governments are now in for their water-sensitive urban design assets. And this will be the interesting space to watch. For quite a while, in my mind, to some extent, I had segmented off these traditional asset management approaches because I was so focused on this particular space. And I got to see local governments have success in this particular space, watching them from afar. But now that we're into this spot, this is the spot where I think things are going to hot up in the future. People are going to make innovations. They're going to make traditional asset management processes work for water-sensitive urban design assets. And it's going to be the bit that I think continues to evolve in the next few years. And you never know, I might come back in a year or so and I might have some more detailed stuff to throw into these particular spots for you based on what I've seen the good people in local governments in Southeast Queensland doing right now. Not right now, it's Saturday today. You know, next week, next month, next 6 months. That's the stuff that's going to inform this in the future. Sweet, thanks for tuning in. Good luck getting yourself a budget. I hope this is a useful foundation, a useful starting point, this process. There will be a couple of videos. I know we've only got to episode 128 on here because that's the process itself. I'm going to follow up with a couple more videos, share a few thoughts on there around this, this getting a budget space. But in terms of the process and the steps itself, that's it for now. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time.